Hi, everybody. I am really keen to be chatting about this topic tonight. For me, it's really important that we teach children how to use their senses and getting them to explore different things. If I think of teaching over the years where I've had children who've really been afraid of experiencing different little things in terms of their senses, not wanting to touch or feel or really withdrawn. And I think that's how we expose our children from when they're little. So, how do we actually get them to be aware of their senses, to use their senses? And so, how does that then help us in terms of how we learn, how we interact, and how we grow? Because our senses are around us. It's the way we communicate, it's the way we engage with different people. So, tonight, I'm really excited that Candice is here and that she's going to share the amazing product range and what it is around senses that she thinks is so important. So, hi, Candice. I'm really excited to learn more about the products that you have to show us tonight.
Good evening, Karen, and good evening to all your viewers. And thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be a part of this. Finally, I've been glued to your show for a while. So thank you once again.
No, it's really lovely. So, can you tell us, where did this idea come from? Why did you even start this business?
So my son actually has a SPD, so sensory processing disorder, very high level. It's auditory, but the challenge has been, how do we fit him into main school? Do we fit him into main school? Um, the little things like the taking him to a movie, taking him into a classroom, into the mall. There's certain things we can and can't do, and how do we as parents try and really fit into that? It's not about how do we change him, because that's who he is, but how do we equip ourselves and how do we equip him to cope? So that's really where this all started. And then the big thing for me is, especially in the world we live in now, especially going through COVID, the amount of anxiety that children went through, we went through, and also as we are finding more and more sort of, I don't know what you call them, apartments, less garden, children are forgetting how to play, especially with the introduction of technology. And I mean, you've known me over the years, I'm very pro technology, but there's a place and time for everything. And out of this sort of sensible play was born. So in terms of how do you use our senses for play, and how important is sensory play? We're dealing with all of this. I mean, from children with SPD to anxiety to autism, or just your everyday child that needs to learn and needs to play. And so we actually, the very first box that was put together are our baby stimulation boxes.
So I was just going to say, so why do you start from babies? Why do you think mums at home should actually start this?
So that's a very good point. So the big thing is children and babies are not born with their senses completely, I don't want to say intact, but developed. There's neural pathways, and the importance, let me get back to your first question, the importance of sensory play is to develop these neural pathways. That's why we play. And when we have a look at this, we also develop not only through the senses like your normal, and your taste, touch, sound, sight, but you also develop through movement, through spatial awareness. And those are extremely, extremely important as well. So we really started with the first box, and I used this on my little one when he was, a baby. So simple things, and it's things that often we overlook as parents, but it's also easy stuff. So things like a microfiber cloth. You rub it on your little one. So like I'm saying, this is from birth. Develops those tactile development against the skin. It's for touch. And like I said, the big thing here is we are developing and stimulating those neurons in the brain, because they are not. A baby is not born with them fully developed. It's our responsibility as parents to develop it. You know, we can't leave it up to the teachers, the in preschool, the nannies, etc. We need to ensure that we know what is happening and what the possibilities are when it comes to this. So yeah, so this is where it was all born. It was born out of the baby stimulation boxes from birth. And I've actually extended that range now right up to our elderly, because we often think, you know, sensory play, oh, it's just for the littlies. Yes, like I said, it's extremely important right from birth. Every milestone has their own developmental challenges that sensory play brings into, you know, the forefront and is able to assist with and develop. But we go up to the elderly. Your elderly that are suffering from Alzheimer's, dementia, arthritis, something like our elderly bag can help them just as much. So things like a simple squeeze ball. Again, I'm going back. It's just as important for some of our younger kids and adolescents when trying to calm them down, developing their developing their pincer grip, developing these muscles. Because again, as parents, we think, oh, you know, 4, 5, yeah, they'll start writing. But as important as for us to exercise daily for our health, we need to develop these muscles and exercise these muscles. So this pincer grip, you know, your hands, your fingers, they're not going to develop on their own. So, and I've also, I see in my son's class now, the amounts of children that are complaining about writing, because that's not something they're used to. We haven't developed these muscles in the right way. So going back from there all the way to the elderly, getting them joints moving again, getting them to focus on something. It's just as important as it is for a child with concentration issues as it is for someone that's now going through Alzheimer's and dementia.
That's very true.
So my range is quite vast, but like I said, it all revolves around how we develop those senses. How do we develop those neural pathways through sensory play? And that's the key element here.
So giving people the boxes, do you give them lesson ideas or tips? Is there an information sheet with it as well? So what kind of additional information do you give people?
So for example, so every single box of mine, so the one I showed you, the baby stimulation box, you will see here, sorry, will help if I hold it the right way around.
It gives
you an introduction to what sensory play is, and also that gives you all the activities and what either nanny or mom or gran, whoever it is, dad can do with the baby. And every single box has that inside of it. So this is our what I call our TheraPlay box. So it is a range specifically developed for children battling with concentration. So especially with kids with autism, SPD to a certain extent, ADHD. So everything in here is for concentration, also to assist in calming them down to a certain extent to focus. But yeah, like I said, everything in here has the description, has what you do with it, and certainly the benefit. Going from your scented Play-Doh, your worry beads, a basic thing like a mirror. For a child who is absolutely petrified and having a meltdown, a simple thing like a mirror and your basic prompting cards of how they start communicating with themselves to start bringing their own emotions in check. Very important, but it's something, you know, as parents, we don't know about, and we certainly don't realize. So yes, all my boxes. But like I said, because I'm a mom of a child with SPD and, like I said, high functioning, but I would have loved to have got boxes like this or help and guides to certainly guide me step by step through the process. A bag that I put together.
Before you go on to that bag, perhaps just explain to people what SPD is before you move on, just for people who might be watching.
So sorry, I'm so used to just rambling off these acronyms that I forget. So SPD is a sensory processing disorder. It is a fairly new term. It used to be grouped into autism.
Yep.
But SPD is not the full autism spectrum. What SPD is, so you will notice, like, let me talk about my son, for example. He obviously has an auditory, so there's nothing wrong with his ears. The problem with my son is in his neural pathway, his processing of sound is 10 times worse than what it actually is. So when he was in a classroom, obviously with 25 kids, the teacher was giving instructions, and I kept on getting told he's not completing the instructions, he's not starting the instruction, he's not focusing. Meantime, he never even heard the instruction. Because there is so much noise, he could not process that instruction from the teacher. Things like tags on his clothing. Don't put tags in his clothing. He hates socks because of the lining in his socks. Things like jeans. He cannot wear jeans. He hates the texture of the denim. Don't mix his food because he can't stand having the different textures together in one plate. So, you know, these are things that are important to realize in your child. It doesn't make your child any more abnormal. You know, it makes, I think every child is unique, and it's how do we as parents, as teachers, how do we ensure that we are there to build that environment for them that they can learn, they can thrive. So when I talk about a calming down bag for autism or SPD, and when I talk about SPD, it's a sensory processing disorder. So like I said, my son's got auditory. A lot of parents have a tactile, where actually it's a completely at the end of the spectrum and quite bad, where a child will not even eat because they cannot handle any food in their mouth and actually get fed intravenously. I mean, so you get a range here. But nonetheless, no matter whether your child is high spectrum, you know, really quite a severe SPD or quite severe ADHD, our products caters for the entire range, and certainly our products are equipped to assist parents. That was a big thing for me. How do we give the parents the tools? Because it's one thing sending them to an OT. You know, that's the go-to occupational therapist. But it's great when when the child is there getting the therapy, but what happens afterwards?
Yep.
You know, the child still has to come home. The parents still need those tools. So we've created a number of things. So like I said, it starts right from the beginning. And then we've got what we call our calm down bag. Now, it's actually our calm down.
So if I ask you, say for like example, in your calm down bag, do you focus on one sense, or do bags have a range of different products for different senses in them?
Yeah, so our bags have a range of sensors. So before I get to my calm down kit, our TheraPlay bag focuses on your auditory, visual, and tactile senses, movement, as well as spatial awareness. So our TheraPlay box has a variety of sensors that it looks at. Our standard boxes, so if you think of our baby stimulation box, it's also focusing on your movement, your auditory, your touch, and your sound, as well as spatial awareness for some of them. They've also got the mirror and etc. And then we have our fine motor boxes. So obviously that's slightly different. We're focusing on your movement, developing, again, like I said, your pincer grip, right from 6 months old. We have a kit that starts developing that fine motor movement. So there are kits that are developed focused on a certain sense, and then there are kits that encompass all senses. We've got like our messy play kit, which is I'm going to show you just now to give a tip to some of the moms watching. You know, especially when you're busy in the kitchen, we're so used to saying, "Oh, just put them in front of TV," which I'm a mom also. I completely understand, but there's some other ways of doing it instead of just saying, "Let's put them in front of TV or the tablets." So I'll show you now. But just to get back to my calm down bag and my calm down kit, there is nothing worse and nothing more helpless than your child having a complete meltdown. And I'm not talking tantrum. I'm talking absolute fear of that thought going through them, that emotion, that dealing with this environment. Complete it. I can't actually describe it to you. I think for the moms that have a child with either autism or a sensory processing disorder, they'll get it. But it's just as complete. This child freezes and goes into an utter state of heightened emotions. So I developed a bag to try and assist my child in dealing with those emotions, because that's the one thing with him, is it's how do we deal with it. So when we're faced with this absolute fear, and like I said, his biggest problem is this auditory, and then going into a complete slide. So I put together a bag, actually a kit. So I have special little earpieces that try and block out, I call it the bad noise, and focus on the important things we need to concentrate on. Things like simple things that also parents can do, but these are prompting cards. So hold a special object. I'll get to the weighted blankets now, but just holding a teddy close to you, or your special item. Again, I'm working on touch, but I'm also working on releasing dopamine and serotonin, which I call our happy neurons.
Yes.
It's that touch, that hug. Okay, again, try and hug my son. He's going to run a mile, but give him a teddy to hug, and he'll hug it. And what we're trying to do there is release the dopamine, serotonin, which helps him calm down, happy, and reduce the cortisol, which is my stress hormone. So there's a couple things in here. Like I said, hold a special object, take a drink of water, teaching them how to breathe, hum a song, take a breath, count to 10, write a story for older ones, write down what you're feeling right now. So a lot of, for parents, as I'm saying this, you go, oh yes, but in the moment, you don't think about these things. You often go into a panic, and what's our 1-2 then, even for a teacher, what's our go-to thing? We start shouting at them,
the worst.
Don't be stupid. You just get over it. But for a child in this state, they actually cannot get over it.
Yeah.
So that a lot of my products, like I said, this entire bag is built for that, to refocus, to bring them back to themselves, because they're not themselves. They are completely out of their skin at that point in time. And then just talking about the serotonin and dopamine and all of that.
Yeah.
The one thing I get asked very often is, we rush to OT. Schools that, we need to go to OT. Great, we're at OT. Then they get told a weighted blanket. Your child needs a weighted blanket. I get a lot of requests from schools, from parents around, what is a weighted blanket? Why a weighted blanket? You go onto Google and they're extremely expensive. So we have actually made our own weighted blankets. They're available in 2 sizes. So this one is specifically for a little boy, as you can see. But the key here for a weighted blanket, and they use both, again, I'm going to go right back to the start, from premature babies in incubators. The importance, again, reducing stress. Deep pressure therapy. That is the purpose of a weighted blanket. So if nothing else sticks tonight, and if you're a mom or a parent, a dad, a teacher, and you have to now inform a parent that their child has to have a weighted blanket, just go and Google deep pressure therapy and you will understand the purpose. But the purpose behind the weighted blanket, as I explained, the same reason we try and hug a child, cocoon a child, especially a child that's going through complete stress, is to develop, stimulate those neurons, stimulate specifically the cortisol. We want to reduce that, and we want to stimulate the dopamine, which is our happy drug, if I can call it that.
Yeah.
So we want to increase happiness, drive down stress, and that's what the weighted blanket does. Both our weighted blanket and our lap buddy. So our weighted blanket we make ourselves, and it's got the recycled plastic in the middle, plastic beads, and around the side it's got your standard stuffing. So you can go and tuck this in under your child, because often your weighted blankets are extremely heavy and very uncomfortable, which makes them pointless. And then on that same point, before we move on, our little lap buddy. So again, this is from ages what I've got it from 3 all the way up to elderly. So I've got this in a couple of old age homes. Again, same principle as the weighted blanket, but we have added a stroking. So if you go home now, or you're home, if you're having a very bad day, go home and stroke your cat or your dog and look what it does to you. That stroking, that same repetitive motion. Okay, we've also kind of got this covered in a really nice soft fabric that I want to stroke and hug. But it's got the same. I'm reducing my cortisol levels. I'm driving up my serotonin and dopamine. That's repetitive action. The deep breaths as I stroke. I'm coming down. I'm slowly sort of finding my center again. And that helps a child calm down, helps a child that's just undergone trauma. Also helps people with Alzheimer's, dementia, the same thing, that repetitive motion. Again, everything we do is to build neural pathways. Yeah, so those are some of, I know I went off at a tangent and around the bend and back. But those are some of our really key products and why we do what we do.
And I think that's so important, because I think often when you've got a new baby, you're just so overwhelmed with so many different things. And looking at the products, they're really easy to use and understand, and they're often things that we're familiar with. And just because they're familiar, when people start saying to you, well, that's how you can use them, which is what your kids are saying, that really gives you as a mother confidence in terms of how I can help my child, how I can make my child feel comfortable, how I can, like you said, help them to feel calm, help them to take away that anxiety. And you can do it in simple ways, just like you've explained. So tucking them in the blanket, because as you say, most often when children are having a meltdown, they don't want to be hugged. They want to just cuddle up and be by themselves. So if you make them feel secure, make them feel loved, and I think those tip cards are just so beautiful, because as you say, we begin to panic as parents, and then, oh my goodness, what do I do? So that's really, really wonderful.
Worse. Believe me, I'm talking from experience. So, those cards, that bag is just as big as a help for the parents as it is for the child. And going back to, from birth, we think we need these expensive toys, these gimmicky, gadgety, fancy things over the cot. Often those cause more damage and overstimulation, and your child can't sleep because of them. Simple things. I know, when have we last seen these? But now I've gone and actually forgotten that curler. Simple curler. After bath, rub it along your baby's feet, up the legs. You don't need all the fancy gimmicks. You can start with basic things. We've got our ribbon glove in here, which is just a garden glove that is obviously, again, tactile, with all the ribbons. So again, auditory tracking, listen to me, visual tracking, and tactile. So it's very, very basic things that we've put together, that are inexpensive and do make a difference for both baby and the parents or the caregiver, without spending this fortune, trying to come up with the best and the state of art toys. It's often the most simplest things that bring the most joy and the most development.
So if a preschool wanted to get hold of you in terms of these kits, do you supply to schools as well, or is it only to individuals?
No, so I do supply to schools, to baby groups. The moms and babes groups are actually one of my biggest supporters. So they resell a lot of my products. But I've got a few nursery schools who also have bought, especially the baby stimulation kits for the younger kids. I mean, for the younger kids, for the babies in their nursery.
Yes.
So yeah, I've got a number of, and then of course my online shop. A lot of parents just buy directly from me. So there's a couple of certainly routes to tackle. But yeah, even if a school just phones me up and says, you know, we've got this problem, we don't know what to do, I'm happy to have a chat to them and see what we can do. I think the big thing is I'm here to help. It's obviously a passion of mine, something I'm also trained in. So believe me, it's not just that I was a mom and needed help. I am a registered trauma counselor, do have a background in psychology. So it is certainly something that is dear, obviously, and near to my heart, but certainly a passion, and I'm certainly here to help, even if I'm just a sounding board. Yeah, here to help. Yeah, and I'm always keen to give tips. So if I may, Karen, before we
I was just going to say, can we go into the sensory play?
yes,
You read my mind.
it's my favorite part of it. That's why I held sensory parties.
I
Just
love
so that I
it.
could get my hands dirty. So this is simple. So for all the moms, dads, nannies, teachers, anybody listening, I know, like I said, the biggest problem moms always say to me is, but I'm so busy. I just want to get my work done, or I just want to get the food in the oven, or you know, and I get it. I really do. But there are some ways that we can work around this. So here's one. Very inexpensive. All you need is cocoa. So standard cocoa powder that you would go and buy to make a chocolate cake.
So
Corn
Candice,
flour,
Richard's saying it looks yummy.
I'm not so sure. Don't eat this. Not sure I would eat this. It can be eaten, but I'm not sure I would. But it's corn flour and cocoa powder. So that's what you need. And I'm just going to quickly open the water. So corn flour here, our maizena. So maizena, cocoa powder. All you're going to go do is pour a little bit of water. Okay. Let me pour a little bit of water. And your kid's favorite, I have to have a dinosaur. So he's going to take a dive into our mud bath right now. So yeah, and then I'm going to go mix all of this up. So I am now creating a mud bath for our dinosaur. Okay. The purpose of this activity, again, do it in your kid's high chair. It's safe to eat. I don't think it's going to taste very nice, Richard, but it's safe to eat. Little one in his high chair, or if they have a table. And again, while you're busy, it's going to make a mess. And when people think of sensory play, they often skip this because they think mess. I will get to that. Not everything has to be messy. No. But at some point in life, the kid has to get dirty. So this is now making a mud bath, okay? I'm then going to go stick my dinosaur in the mud. I need a bit more water. So the kid's going to mix it. Your little one's going to mix. And what is going to happen is your maizena is actually going to harden. So my dinosaur is going to get stuck in the mud. Okay. So you will see here, it's now hardening. And I'm getting great mud balls here. So if you really don't want this on your floor, just put a top down and take it out and hose it off. You may need to hose your little one down too, but it's absolutely great fun. And you'll see here, so sorry, it's made a mud bath. It's now going to harden, and my dinosaur's going to get stuck in the mud. Then what you can do is have a bowl of water next to your little one. You don't need a big bowl, small bowl of water, and have them then pull the dinosaur out and wash your dinosaur. So we're doing two things here. One, obviously, this is great tactile. I mean, you're not going to get much better than this between the squishy and then the hardened. And then the fact that they have to pick up their item, put it in again. I'm aware of object awareness. So where is it going? Spatial awareness, what's around me. I'm dripping all over my lap, buddy.
Sorry.
And then obviously the big thing as well is that pincer grip. So I'm having to pick up, put in my pincer grip. So we're doing a couple things. One simple activity and 2 ingredients. So the nice thing is I do give tips and tricks and things on my Facebook page or Instagram page, so people can go to Sensible Play SA, and please use any of these. Send pictures, give me comments. Did it work? Did it not work? My son still loves this. He's 8, so he will still play this stuck in the mud activity and then go and watch his dinosaurs. So it's really absolutely great fun. Another one is simple Sago. So go onto my Facebook page. I have given some tips how you can use Sago as a non-messy sensory activity. So so those are some of the keys for me. I know as parents and even as teachers, I take my hat off to teachers. We are so tired. I get it. But that's also why I've developed these products, because they're here to assist you. They're here to try and make your life easier, give you the right tools to really help your child develop as effectively and as efficiently and as fully to their capabilities, and of course make both of your lives a lot easier.
So at the beginning you spoke about that you've got this range. I'm just quickly going to share my screen and show people your really great what's it called, your video. So not your video, your website. Yeah, I just want to show, because I think that there are a range of different tools that you've got here. So we've spoken about the littlies. So you go from can you see the screen? Is it shared?
Yes, we're good.
So you've got from 2 to 12, you've got from 1 to 2, 3 to 4. So you then go 4 plus. You then also spoke about your parties that the children that you offer, which I think is a really great resource as well. What I want you to speak about quickly in terms of what you spoke about just now was the autism type resources that you have as well. Could you share about those?
So what I have there, and that's, like I said, it's an expanding range, and most of it, the imported earphones, listen to me if they heard me say that, earpieces, everything else we make ourselves and put together ourselves. So in autism, and not only autism, anybody with ADHD, autism, the sensory processing disorder, anxiety disorders, will benefit from the range. So please excuse me if I land up with cocoa everywhere. I should have brought wet wipes.
I was wondering about how you were going to clean your hands. So
wet wipes are magic. I normally have them in every room except the room I'm now in. So the big thing with that's the range for our special education. Obviously, I've spoken about a TheraPlay box. A TheraPlay box focuses on, again, concentration. I have a Fidget bag as well, which you won't believe it, but I developed for an adult who cannot sit through. COVID brought around a lot of things, and she realized she cannot sit through meetings. She cannot actually concentrate during a Teams meeting at all. So instead of playing fishdom on her phone, what I did was I developed a Fidget bag. So it's a spin-off of our by TheraPlay bag.
So just building on that, I had what I called a Fidget box in my classroom for years. It was all sorts of squishy things, puzzles, things, and the rule in my classroom was that you could go and take anything out of the box whenever you wanted to. At the end of the lesson, it went back, but you were not allowed to disturb other people around you. So it was for you to focus and to help you focus, or to help you concentrate. And it worked like a bomb. So
Correct.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I think every teacher should have a fidget box in their classroom with a range of different things.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah. So I couldn't agree more. But like I said, I developed this bag for an adult, but I use it for my son as well. So he can't keep his hands still. That's another thing with the sensory processing. He can't. He has to have something, whether it's Lego that he's actually building while attending with class, or something simple like this. So our TheraPlay box is also very similar. The squishy worm.
Yeah.
Again, two things. Okay, I don't think my light. There we go. So visual, but also I've got to work. You can imagine this feeling of this little worm, but I've also got to work this ball down. So there's a little ball that needs to go down the worm and up the worm. Things like that. I make our own Play-Doh. It's lavender scented. Sorry, you can't smell, but believe me, it's lavender scented. And again, it's the tactile development. I can go and create something. And lavender, so I work with a lot of essential oils through my products as well.
Yes.
Lavender naturally has a calming effect. So if you were to get a little burner in your child's room, just please not where they could get it, but and you burn some lavender, you'll see that also assists in a better sleep at night.
A few lavender drops around the pillow does the same. It really
exactly
helps.
So sorry, a little off the track, but really useful. So I developed the fidget bag, and like I said, it's not only for kids, adults. The TheraPlay box, which is very much, I think, like your fidget box. Variety of things in here, all with instructions. I've already spoken about our lap buddy and our weighted blankets and the purpose of them. I've got like I said, in that calm down bag, which was a big one for me. I also do sell the little earpieces separately. So
can you just explain us a bit about those earpieces? You whizzed past them just now.
So let me say, so it's a European company, and these are actually silicone earpieces. That's exactly what they are, but they're silicone earpieces, and what they do is they actually block part of your canal, so that I call it your bad noise, but it's this overstimulating noise is honed out, and the noise that they are supposed to focus on, like the teacher's voice, is what's filtering through. So I bought them. I must be very honest. I bought them for my son, and he doesn't like the feeling of the silicone.
Oh dear.
So So I'm back to square one with him, trying to figure that one out. But I've got a lot of clients right around the country who these have really helped their kids. So right from 3 all the way up, that goes up to 13. These are really good for their kids and have helped. They don't have that sort of, phobia of anything funny. But it has helped. And then you go on to Calmer Kids, Google Calmer Kids. They're the manufacturers or the brand for these.
Oh, okay.
So I brought those in, and then last but not least of that range, I don't make them, but I do supply them. So moms with babies would think, oh, those are teethers. Yes, they can be teethers, yes, but give this to a child with autism, and it becomes a chewlery. So you will find the need, like my son has to have his hands busy and fidgety. A lot of children will have the need to bite something. Very often that is their nails or back of a pencil. So these little guys were also silicone. Put them around their neck, and they can then bite these. And they're called jewelry. So it's chewable jewelry. Exactly the same thing as you would as a teether, as a baby would use as a teether. But for children who need that stimulation the whole time, those are certainly a valuable item to have on hand. I think that's currently my sort of special needs range. Well, I don't like the term special needs, but certainly, you know, sort of for the children that require additional support. And it is growing. And obviously, I do some work with some OTs. So, you know, when they have requests, right from, I mean, people are sending their kids from 3 months to an OT. I was shocked. But things like a sensory snake. I developed a sensory snake because it was a requirement from an OT. So yeah, so like I said, I work hand in hand with OTs, with parents who phone me and say, I need something like this. And that's where a lot of our designs come from, is feedback and from parents who are just at wit's end and need help.
That's fantastic. And then just to end off, in terms of, do you want to quickly go back and talk about you spoke about for your older people, but you didn't actually say what is in the bag. Do you want to just mention what's in the bag?
Yes, so again, it's also a spin-off of our Fidget bag. So for those with grands or moms who, you know, who either have arthritis or do have Alzheimer's and dementia, the certain things, again, I'm going to come back to the repetition. So that stroking is extremely important for them, as is doodling. So we've got a little rhino here that comes with a couple of cookies, and just that focusing on something and developing. So it comes with that. Obviously the same applies as our Fidget bag on your, you know, the squishy. The pull, you know, something to pull the worm. It's got the worm, it's got the Play-Doh. So the same concept applies. Like I said, the focus here is just how do we get them to focus again, build those, try and develop those stimulate those neural pathways as far as possible. And then again, we're going right back to the same as we did when we were little. How do we again build those sensors, build those neural pathways, develop and strengthen your basic motor functions. So yeah, so that's our elderly bag, because I think we very often we focus on sensory play just thinking it's only preschool, but it's not. No. It focuses right from birth till the day we
use our senses all the time, so it makes sense that it's not just when we live.
Exactly. So yeah.
I missed Richard's question. So Richard says, my child chews his clothes to pieces. He's saying, do you know more about this need to chew?
So I'm by no means any expert in that area. I do know it is a especially please, I'm not saying your child has autism or SPD, by no means. I do know it's one of the things that kids with that does have a tendency to do. And all it is it's an overstimulation of I don't know what the right terminology, I don't want to say the glands, but it's this need to focus on something. And so what they do is they go towards that sense, my taste, and this constant need. So maybe try jewelry and see if you give that instead of his clothes. You probably find he might, if you had a pencil in front of him, I don't know if he chews his pencil as well, or his fingernails, but it is that overstimulation of those you know, the muscles, the mouth, the inside. I don't know what the right terminology is, so excuse me. I will go and get all the research I can. You can just give Karen your details. But yeah, I would think try maybe a jewelry and see if he gravitates to that. The likelihood of you get him away from chewing something, that's unlikely. I think
so I see Richard says his son is PDD, so that would probably give you some insight.
PDD is, which disorder is that?
Richard, maybe you can pop it in the chat. He hasn't come through, but carry on chatting. So you were saying perhaps he could try jewelry?
So yeah, I would think try and focus then that on that object as to destroying his clothes. Yeah, would be my one piece of advice. I'm assuming. Okay.
So, Richard,
So I was going to say, I'm
thanks,
assuming
Richard.
it is a processing disorder. Yeah. So Richard, I can get you the right scientific explanation for why they do that, but it does have to do the same. It's your sensory processing. It's how he is, his neurons are, his neural pathways have developed in terms of dealing with that environment. So I don't know if he does it all the time or particularly when he's stressed. Okay, I'm with you.
Thanks, Richard.
Okay, so it has to do, again, comes back to very similar to the SPDs, the sensory processing, where it is that requirement where they cannot deal with either that environment or what is going on, or deal with that emotion. So like when my son has this complete meltdown, and I'm talking, yeah, you think tantrums, it's a complete meltdown. Yeah. He may revert to dealing with his emotions and his environment and the stimulus by chewing. And what do we have always with us? We have our clothes. So I would grab this and chew, or my nails. So try it. I can't say that I can't guarantee that it will work, but that's the whole reason behind the chulery, is to focus their attention on that as opposed to distraction. And then Richard, yeah, something like but let's have a chat. You've got my details. Give me a shout. We can try a few things.
I'll do an
like
intro mail.
I'm sure you have, but focusing his energy and how he deals with his emotions using a couple other things may work.
Cool. Thank you, Candice. This has been so insightful. And just the sharing, I think, is so useful to so many people. So thank you so much for that.
No, once again, thank you for having me. I think I could be here for hours. So I appreciate your time, Karen, and to everybody that was watching.
So to end off, what is the key thing that you would say to people around us? So whether it's a new mommy or it's somebody who's got a parent with dementia, or so a general thing, what would your key tip be?
So the first is, don't try to change them. I know we get all these self-help books. Just go with your gut and who they are. So don't try now turn your child into the neighbor's child because he does X, Y, and Z, or that mommy is. We have milestones for a reason, yes, but don't panic if they're not reaching them. Everything in their own strides. And that's why there are organizations like myself here to assist you in making sure that we are giving them the best possible tools to develop and to live out their life. And same as with a mom or a parent with dementia or Alzheimer's. How do we equip them to make the most out of what they have left? And for both, it comes back to dignity. It comes back to being who they are. And like I said, I'm totally guilty of going down that road and shouting at my son instead of going down to him and using the tools that I know, because we revert back to what society says we should do and shouldn't do and how their behavior should or shouldn't be.
Yeah.
So that's key for me. And just don't sweat the small stuff. It's okay. It's okay that your child's a PDD. It's okay. He is enough. And he is unique and perfect in his own way. There's nothing wrong with him. What we now need to figure out is, how do we give you the tools as a parent to equip him to live that fullest life and the life he is destined to lead. So yeah, and that's the one. I think that's a takeaway. That's something as a mom I've also learned, and I learn daily with my son, daily. So it's an exciting journey, and I think if we just all stood more together as parents, as teachers, as businesses in this field, and judged less, we'd certainly, I think, have a far happier society.
I agree. Oh, Candice, I can't say thank you enough for your sharing.
No, thank you. Like I said, I could talk all night, so I think time's up. Yeah, but Karen, I really do appreciate this opportunity.
No, so thanks everyone. We're going to end the broadcast. Thanks then. Good night.
Good night. Thanks so much.